And welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers back as we are every week to discuss topical issues and meet interesting people. And today, a guy that we've not had on.
No, Aubrey McClendon has been in Oklahoma City a good number of years, grew up here, and has made quite an impact. And we are pleased that he will take some time from his schedule, which I know is quite busy, and come visit with us about what's going on in his life, in Chesapeake's life, and the other things that he's involved in. It's exciting to have him on.
He and Chesapeake are both making a large impact on the state of Oklahoma. We'll find out what's next for Chesapeake and Aubrey McClendon. It's all coming up today on The Verdict.
In driving rain, blistering heat, and bitter cold, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, Chesapeake drills non-stop for natural gas on American soil. Chesapeake drills more new gas wells than anyone else, and from those wells collects the most drilling information and acquires more 3D seismic images, leveraging every efficiency to improve the odds of finding more natural gas every day with every well we drill. The better job we do of discovering bigger reserves of clean-burning American natural gas, the greater the prosperity of our nearby communities, our state, and our nation. And as long as there are more gas reserves to be found here in the U.S., we will never rest. Chesapeake. Natural gas wins the day.
You would never give your 8-year-old daughter the keys to the car, but when you give her the computer keys, she can go anywhere in the world, some very dangerous places.
Every day, 1 in 5 children is approached online by a potential predator.
That's why Cox Communications makes it easy for parents to control what content their children can access. To learn more, visit cox.com/takecharge.
I'm proud to partner with Cox to safeguard our nation's children. Know where your child is going online. Remember, you're in the driver's seat.
Are you the one looking for an exciting new career? If so, we are the one looking for you. We are Cox Communications, and we are searching for field service representatives. FSRs interact and perform services at our customers' home. Sound like the job for you? Then some of the things you need are a high school diploma and a good driving record. But for complete job description and qualification, go to jobs@cox.com.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Very pleased today to have across the table from me Aubrey McClendon. Aubrey is the chairman, CEO of Chesapeake Energy Corporation. He's a Heritage Hall Charger, a graduate of Duke University, worked in the oil and gas business for a number of years, and then founded Chesapeake Energy with Tom Ward in 1989. He's been active in a number of business and civic events here in Oklahoma City. He has a real interest in this community and this state. We're very pleased to have him here today, and we apologize for not having you earlier, but welcome.
No apologies. I've had a fair amount of press lately, so I'm not looking for a whole bunch more, but I'm thrilled to be here with you guys today.
Thank you.
So.
Journal Record article recently noting your wealth quoted you as saying this: "I just plug away, hope for the best, and let everybody else keep score." That's pretty much of a common sense approach in your focus.
I think so, and it also reflects the fact that I work in an industry where the tides of oil and gas prices come and they go, and they've been good the last few years, and I've benefited from that. I think they'll remain that way for a large number of years to follow, which I think is good for Oklahoma, but I recognize that there's a lot of risk in the business that I run, and so I try not to focus too much on the numbers and instead focus on what I do for a living. That's try and create value for our shareholders and our employees and the people in the communities in which we work.
Do you consider yourself a student of the Oklahoma history in the oil and gas business, so that the current people who are involved in the industry are learning from the previous generations?
I think so. I'm first of all, I have a history major. It was the easiest major that I could find at Duke. But I just find the whole background of this business to be completely fascinating. What I think is so different today is I really don't believe, with the possible exception of Robert Hefner, I don't view there are any kind of larger than life oil men left, if you will. And so I love to read the histories of the great men, the Gettys and the Skelleys, the Kerrs and McGees that this state has produced, because it's what formed the state. However, now, I look at myself as more of a business executive probably than I am a wildcatter in the same cut as those gentlemen were.
Describe your work ethic.
Well, my work ethic is the same as the Oklahoma State motto, labor conquers all. Tom Ward and I never thought we would be the smartest guys in the oil and gas business, but we thought there was a chance we might be willing to work harder than anybody else in the business. And I think that's largely turned out to be true. And so we focus on strong work ethic at our company. We try to reward people as well, but I love what I do and view that you just have to be there you kind of have to be present to win. And I think that's something that I try and encourage all my employees to think about.
How did it evolve? I know you told this story many, many times, but how did it evolve from where you started?
Grew up here, went to college at Duke, came back in 1981, as you guys know, boomtown. I lived a few miles from Penn Square Bank, so I was very familiar with all that was going on there. And luckily, I'm not young now, but at the time I was young enough to kind of miss the crazy stuff that went on in the late 70s and early 80s. I went to work for an uncle of mine named Aubrey McClendon, who had a company called JTEX Oil and Gas, was an accountant and became a landman. And the company started to have some challenges like all oil and gas companies did in the early 80s. So I went out on my own at age 23, was married, had a mortgage. Not really because I wanted to go out on my own. I never thought I was ready to. It's the only job I had was to work for myself. And then I met Tom Ward within about 6 months after that. We shook hands on a partnership that lasted for 6 years. We just worked on deals together, shared the profits 50-50, and then incorporated Chesapeake in 1989.
Well, what's been the evolution of Chesapeake since its formation?
Well, there have been quite a few ups and quite a few downs as well. Referencing back to part of the other question you guys asked me, I've been considered probably a business failure more than I have been considered a business success. So I always consider comments about present success in the context of what many people said about Tom and I along the way, when there was no guarantee of our success, and there certainly were many times no indications of our success. But things, when we first started, it was a private company. We were never well capitalized, and we caught a couple of breaks with some new technologies in terms of horizontal drilling, 3D seismic, and we were able to go public in 1993, and that really was the boost for us.
What was the culture like in '93? Was everybody saying this is a can't miss, or was everybody saying whoa, not so fast? Take us back to 1993 when you went public. What was the word on the street about this company?
Well, I think the word on the street in Oklahoma City was nobody could believe we even got to the starting line, and then once we got to the starting line, most people expected us to just kind of fall over exhausted, and there was a little bit of that. We ended up being the worst IPO in America in 1993. Our stock went down 70%, and so it gives you, it makes you very inwardly focused and very driven, because we really did have some challenges, and people didn't think that two 33-year-old landmen from Oklahoma City could manage a public company. And so, in the beginning, they were probably right. But we're pretty fast studies, and we worked hard. And from 94 to 96, for example, we were the best stock in America. So the whole company's history has been big steps up, some steps back, and off we go. I'm trying to eliminate the steps back these days if I can. So.
Let me ask you about, I know from looking at some of your material that you focus exclusively on natural gas.
Yes, sir.
How did you and Tom make the decision? When did you make the decision? We're just not going to be an oil and gas company. We're going to be a gas company.
Mainly it came out of the realization that there's really just not much oil left to be found in the United States anymore. If you think about geologically, oil is generally found above depths of about 12,000 feet. Below that, natural gas largely takes over. And so by the time we got involved in the business, people have been looking for oil for 100 years, a lot of smart people, and the big fields have been found through the use of technology, but also just because they tended to be big in size, and so just kind of a stumble factor. So we recognized that we weren't going to go out and revolutionize the business of finding oil. On the other hand, gas had been a throwaway product for the industry for most of its history, and I just felt like from an environmental perspective, and from a value delivered perspective, that natural gas was the way to go. And it turns out that that's been one of our better decisions.
Was that a decision made early on, or is that one you came to later?
Oh, I don't think in the beginning we really thought about it that much. It just was the practical reality that the type of wells that we were trying to drill tended to find gas, but we didn't say we want to go find gas. Today we really say we want to find gas. And so the approach that we use to exploring for hydrocarbons is now focused primarily really on finding natural gas.
You've become a big booster of the state of Oklahoma, the city of Oklahoma City, downtown, the river. Why do you take such a big step and presence in community involvement?
Well, I'm very proud to have been born here and raised here, like many people in town. Might come from a pioneer family. My grandfather was born in Indian Territory in a log cabin, not much bigger than the studio, with 6 other children. And so I'm enormously proud of the fact that in 3 generations, my family's moved from a dirt floor to more than that. And I think it reflects a little bit of the history of Oklahoma as well. And having been able to travel to go to college for 4 years at Duke and meet people from all over the country, and then later my business travel, to go really explore with people what Oklahoma has accomplished in such a short period of time. It just makes me enormously proud. And it's a state that you can make a difference to one person. I mean, if I were in Texas, we would be a drop in the bucket here. I really feel like if you throw yourself into the community, that you really can make a difference.
We're going to go to our first break. We're visiting with Aubrey McClendon. You're watching The Verdict, and we'll be right back.
Shining is taking responsibility. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, we know managing your health care can be overwhelming, and it's our job to help you meet the challenge. By guiding, supporting, and showing the way, we encourage you to gain control. Because we believe the best tool we can give you is the confidence to take charge. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oklahoma, shining through.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB, and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Cox Channel, following your favorite teams all season long.
Looks like somebody doesn't want you to know the facts about Cox Digital Telephone.
Maybe it's because over 1.5 million customers are saving big, and you can too. Plus, you'll save even more on all your Cox services when you bundle today.
Oh, here's that new phone service I've been hearing about.
So while the phone company may not like competition,
Nice doggy.
you're gonna love
Nice
it.
doggy.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. And Kent, where do you want to go to next?
I want to talk a little bit about the use of natural gas as the energy source for the generation of electricity. I know you've been involved in that. Tell us about what your activities are and why you think that's a way we ought to go.
I think pretty simply we're trying to accomplish two things. One, we're trying to make sure the world knows that natural gas really should be the fuel for the 21st century. We acknowledge coal's presence in the economy today and its role in building this country in the last 200 years. But going forward, we think it's the wrong fuel to use for new power. There's nothing we can do about the decisions made in the past. And I think that really fits with Oklahoma's interest. I mean, Oklahoma is the third largest gas producing state in the country, second largest gas producing state per capita. And I think for this state to embrace a new coal-fired power plant when I don't think the power is needed in the first place. And secondly, in this day and age, to think about the carbon impact of importing train loads of coal every day from Wyoming and not burning, clean burning natural gas that's produced right here in Oklahoma makes no sense. Unfortunately, the regulatory environment in which our utilities are forced to work within absolutely financially incentivize them to go out and build these multi-billion-dollar, I call them dinosaur power plants that are profitable for them, but I think put on all of us an unfunded future financial liability with regard to future carbon taxes, which we don't know what they're going to be.
A lot of people have criticized the term, anything that falls under the term fossil fuels.
Sure.
Coal is a fossil fuel, oil is a fossil fuel, natural gas is a fossil fuel. It seems to me to a certain extent what you're trying to do is point out that natural gas is a much cleaner burning fuel and probably shouldn't be lumped in to that larger group.
Right, and it even goes further than fossil fuels. It's always oil and gas. And what I know Robert Hefner tried to get communicated for 20 years was that natural gas is its own industry. It's always been a byproduct of the oil industry. And what we're trying to show the country, the state, the country, and the world is that natural gas deserves to be seen in its own right as its own industry. And when you look at the attributes of the fuel, it's produced right here. We don't have to import it from overseas. When we burn it, it produces 50% fewer emissions than coal does for power plants. When you put it in your car to move your car, it's 85% more emission-free than using gasoline. So it absolutely fits in Oklahoma's present, as you see prosperity throughout the state being driven by the natural gas industry. And if you look forward, you can see clearly that the foundation of our future prosperity can be natural gas as well. To turn our backs on that, to embrace a technology from the past just makes no sense to me.
How do you address the question about economics,
Oh,
about
sure.
what's more expensive, what's less expensive, in the short term and in the long term?
The only drawback to natural gas right now that either OG&E or PSO or any critic of natural gas could say is that it's too expensive. Well, too expensive relative what? A power plant today that burns coal rather than natural gas to build it costs about 4 times more up front. Its operating and maintenance expenses are about twice as much. The only place where coal outperforms gas is in variable cost. And my problem with that is it's only one part of the cost equation, and I think going forward it simply ignores the future costs of coal. Right now coal is cheap only because we have failed to internalize the external costs of burning coal. Air pollution, water pollution, worse public health, and I can guarantee us all here that there will be a day in the not too distant future when those external costs will start being internalized in the price of coal. In my opinion, will likely go above the price of natural gas. That would do wonders for the Oklahoma economy.
How much natural gas is still available in the United States?
Good question. There's been some debate about that, and some people have worried about whether or not we're running out of natural gas. We've been through this experience several times in the past, and most notably about 5 or 6 years ago, when even I questioned whether or not the country had enough natural gas to continue producing more and more each year. But what's happened the last couple of years is we've recognized through the use of new geological and drilling technologies, there's an enormous reserves of natural gas locked up in shales as opposed to sandstones and limestones. Oklahoma has abundant resources there. That changes everything. We will have greater and greater LNG, liquefied natural gas, and someday we'll be using methane hydrates that are measured in the quadrillions of cubic feet of gas. So there's plenty of gas out there. We've got to do a better job of educating the public to that effect.
Do you anticipate Chesapeake being involved in some of those other fields?
Oh, no, not. We are paid to go find natural gas onshore in the U.S. and to do so as profitably as we can, and that's what we're going to do. I thought what you were going to ask me is, will we be engaged in the education process of letting people know about the positive attributes about natural gas and about its relative abundance? And the answer is absolutely yes.
You just said something I wanted to explore a little bit. You said onshore in the United States.
Right.
Those are two fundamental decisions the company's made. Why'd you make those two decisions?
I don't like to travel to Asia and Africa very much, I guess, is part of it. I'm pretty parochial. But no, I mean, I felt like there was no need to go to those places because there was plenty of natural gas to be found here. I didn't feel like the company could ever develop the expertise to drill offshore, and I thought that onshore was a place that had been overlooked by the majors and some even of the larger independents. So Tom and I just noted a void here, starting in Oklahoma, but then other places onshore in the U.S. And we produce about 4% of the nation's natural gas, about 22% of Oklahoma's natural gas, and we think there's plenty of room for growth in those numbers without us having to go somewhere else.
The energy sector continues to expand in employment in Oklahoma. Are you bullish on the energy sector in general?
Absolutely. If you look at what's going on in the state, there are lots of business segments that are driving the state's prosperity forward, but it's hard to ignore the contributions of natural gas. And you think about companies like Devon, and you think about our own company and other public companies that have recently been produced out of Oklahoma. It's very encouraging, and I think probably what we're doing more than anything that I like right now are really two things. One is high-paying jobs. We have about 2,000 employees in Oklahoma City, and our payroll is pushing about $250 million on an all-in basis, so these are very good jobs. And secondly, we're attracting young people to the industry, and we're keeping young people at home. And probably nothing today about my job gives me more joy and pleasure than to see us hiring really legions of young people, I'm going to say under the age of 30, who otherwise would have probably had to go to Dallas or someplace like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm just struck when I go by your offices or your campus,
right.
I think as you call it, and very aptly named because it's gorgeous. Whose idea was it, yours or Tom's or both of you, to make that place such a show place?
I mean, everything that we've done together, done at Chesapeake before Tom left, we did together. That probably, though, came out of more my part of the company where I was kind of the front man a little bit, and so I spent more time on it than Tom did. But it really came out of conversations I had with Rand Elliott, one of Oklahoma's great geniuses.
Been on 3 or 4 times.
Good. You need him again. But anyway, I wanted to build a campus because I don't like skyscrapers, I don't like riding elevators, and I don't like the impersonality of them. So I thought, let's build a college campus type approach, and it's been very attractive, and young people particularly respond well to it. Yeah.
We are out of time. Aubrey McClendon, thanks so much for coming on The Verdict.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it very much.
And thanks for all you do.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Our pledge as a company is to provide quality of service for our paying customers. When you illegally hook up cable,
everyone pays.
Theft of cable can cause outages.
Sometimes poor reception.
We seek out illegal use.
and we prosecute offenders.
If you know someone not paying for service,
call us at 1-800-466-5590.
You could remain anonymous.
Cable theft. It's more serious than you think. It's a crime.
Hi, honey. You've got to check this out.
What? What are we listening to?
I had digital phone service installed today.
It sounds just like before.
I know, but it's going to save us a ton of money.
With Cox Digital Telephone, you'll save big every month. Keep your same phone number and get your favorite calling features. Just pay less.
That does sound good.
You should hear the upstairs phone.
We are back on The Verdict, wrapping up a show with Chesapeake CEO Aubrey McClendon.
Done a lot of good things for this community already, and I think his best times are still ahead of him.
Fascinating show. And if you'd like more information on Chesapeake, their website is chkenergy.com. And of course, go to our website and tell us about the show you'd like to see on The Verdict. It's theverdict.tv. We'll see you next time on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced by the Production Services Group at Cox Communications, exclusively for the Cox Channel.